Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to SHQUAREDup. Today we have a N64 repair. This one in particular has a broken joystick. It's a little bit loose, so we're gonna open things up and I'll show you how to replace it if need be, or if we can just get away with just a simple cleaning. We will find out today. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, as always, my name is Sean and this is SHQUAREDup. Alright, so taking apart a controller is actually fairly simple. Luckily, Nintendo didn't put the tri-wings or any sort of game bits in here. You can do all these repairs with just a simple Phillips head screw. There's a bunch of screws to remove. So that's all the main screws. There's two more hidden ones next to the expansion slot here, next to the memory card slot. It's a little bit dusty. I'm just going to get all the dust out of there. Don't want this anywhere near my system, my games, or my controller, or my tools for that matter. And these two screws that are inside here are just a little bit smaller, so make sure you, when you're putting it back, that these two screws end up going in the correct position. Once you've removed all the screws, gently pry it apart. Next thing you want to do is take out this blue cable here. Might be a little bit tough, just go gently, and if you need to, just wiggle it out just like that. We're also going to remove this pad here, which is the receiver for the Z button, so the back trigger, which is right here. What we're gonna do, it's very simple. It might just be glued down just a little bit, but just wiggling it ever so gently should pry it loose. That off to the side, and since we are removing the joystick, which is the console that's right here, we have 3 silver screws on the sides, and at this point you can take out the entire joystick module. Alright, so Nintendo was like the first console, I think, to actually come up with the joystick. So it's this was actually like a revolutionary thing for most game consoles. However, they didn't figure out the technology quite well. So I'm going to show you how to exactly take this apart and why it isn't as reliable as most of the newer ones today. As you see, there is one Phillips head screw here as well. Before you take that out, what you want to do is make sure you are squeezing this part together just so it doesn't come apart. There is a spring in there, so if you aren't holding on to that, it'll make it A, harder to take that screw out, and 2, once you do take it out, it's gonna end up popping, so you don't want that. Leave that screw somewhere on the side, and we can slowly take this out. As you can see, it does have a spring mechanism in there. To completely free it, what you're going to want to do, you can do this with your fingers, I'm just doing this with a pair of tweezers, is there's 2 white tabs here and here. What you want to do is just gently move them back just to free it up. You know what, easy to do it with my finger. Just like that, and the other side as well. Alright, so once you've got your joystick module down to this point, what you can do is slowly take it apart. I'm just going to get my Q-tip ready. What you want to do is squeeze down on this white ring here, grab this little part, rotate it, and lift. Now I'm going to give all of these pieces a nice little scrub down, because as you can see, it's pretty dusty in there. And that one as well. You can see all of the dust and residue that's on here. That is not good. This is a very dirty controller. Lift this part up here as well, just the bottom half of the guides and the railings, just so everything stays in place. Now, you guys notice there is like a whitish type powder on here. I'll tell you what causes that. Remember earlier I told you that Nintendo was the first of its kind, like this joystick was the first of its kind, and Nintendo was kind of breaking some barriers here. Cutting edge technology this was at the time. However, what they didn't take into account is when this is sitting in both of those holders like that, and you move it, the bottom of that, as you can see, still wiggles around. And when that wiggles around, that bottom of that actually grinds into this white bowl here, this plastic bowl. So all this residue you're seeing, all of this, that is from the inside of that bowl. So what it's doing is this is basically rubbing in against that, and every time you use it, the harder you use it, it literally starts to grind that away. And eventually what happens is it will bore a hole right in the center of that. And that is when your joystick is beyond repair. Now, this is just to save you a few dollars. You can get a joystick replacement, like this whole set here that I just took apart. You can get this whole thing for about $10 or $15 shipped. So it's not too expensive. However, more often than not, all it needs is just a little bit of TLC and a little cleaning. I don't have any handy. However, if you have any sort of plastic lube, like lube that you can use with plastic, putting a little bit of that in there will actually help this system not eat away at the plastic as it is doing. So other things you can do to help extend the life of this machine, but again, it's only $10-15. It's not very much to replace it. Putting it back is very simple. You start off with the bowl, make sure one is at the back of the machine, and there's little notches in there to make sure it sits properly. Then you're going to start with the big gear here, and you're going to make sure that goes side to side. If you'd like, you can even give it a quick test just to make sure it's moving. Like that. Set that aside, and we'll take care of this piece. First things first, as you'll see, there's two notches on each side of that, and there's two little nubs in there. So what you're going to do is put it in sideways, and then rotate it so those nubs actually fall into those notches that are in the actual joystick. Just like that. For now, you can flip it all the way in. Place the spring and cover. This acts as a base for the spring, and it also helps keep this part in place as it has a flat surface here where it will sit on. So what you want to do is, as you can see here, this gear is facing the back of the joystick module, so we're going to do it the same way. Once we have it in place, hold that down. Make sure the curved part is facing up. Put it in to the joystick. Once it's there, you can... Once it's it's there, you can actually rotate it to lock it in place. Not the whole thing, as I just did. Just like that. And now what you want to do is make sure your sensor here is in place. That. Make sure the wires are all coming out of this wire and are not overlapping each other. And what you want to do is very carefully flip this over and make sure that this white nub that's sticking out goes all the way through both of these. So it's already in through this one here, and I'm going to make sure it goes into the other one. Once it's there, I'm going to start out by placing the front, squeezing the front down to make sure it's flat. Then I will turn the machine over and squeeze these tabs back in place. You'll hear a nice click and you know they're in place. Just like that. And again, if you do let go, it does have that spring mechanism still in there, so be careful. At this point, what you want to do is flip it over and place the one oddly colored screw that was here back in the correct spot. Which in this case is right here. Give me the coordinates here. There you go. And screw that in place. At this point you can actually test it out. See, to me this does feel loose, however it's been cleaned. So I'm going to let the guy out the whole thing or not. Alright. Set. Now we can pop in our joystick again. Just like that. Before I plug her back in, I'm just going to use a couple of screws to keep everything in place so it's not wiggling too much. Squeeze that in until it's all the way tight. That screw in place. And then what you want to do is just slide this part back in. Just like that. And don't forget the rubber piece that goes with it. Beautiful. And last but not least, make sure the buttons are all in place. These L and R buttons tend to come out very easily. And once you've got that, you can take the back shell, there we go. That fit like a dream, didn't it? So once you've got your controller to this point, you can take a couple of these screws just to secure it in place enough for you to be able to turn around and test it. Right. As you can see, it is a tad loose, but that's going to come with use over time. That's what happens with these machines, especially once that bowl gets worn in and dug out a little bit. This is always going to be a little bit loose. So I'm going to see if the person that gave me this wants me to replace that or if they're good with this. I mean, I would assume they're good with it, but it's not me, it's not my system, not my controller, so I can't judge. I'm happy with the results, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw everything back in, and then we can actually pop it in and test it to make sure it works. Anytime you open a controller, first thing you do after you finish reassembling it is you should plug it back in and test it just to make sure there are no other issues. Beautiful. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Nice and simple, easy 1, 2, 3 steps, and we're all done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys need any repairs similar to this one, or if you have anything else that you need to repair and you need some help with, please leave it in the comment section below. I'll see if I can figure out a way to repair your issues as well, and hopefully by the end of it we will have a full setup across all the systems of anything that you need to fix. Please make sure you hit like and subscribe in the bottom corner and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all of our latest videos. Thank you for watching. You've just been squared up.